live now. If you don't want to watch us here on Instagram, you can also watch us on YouTube as well. There is a little bit better quality and better sound.
Better sound.
Although I think we might have resolved the good sound issues on Instagram.
Yes.
Let us know if there's no...
Please let us know if you think
issues.
you're sounding pitchy or anything like that, so we can make sure that we're giving you the best of quality, and also, serving our guests well too as well.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you again for tuning in. I want to just first start off thanking Wilshire 1001 for having us here in this lovely space, and for to Happening Studios for broadcasting us and allowing us to have this wonderful platform so that we can connect and talk with artists like we love to do.
Amen.
And yeah.
So we're here with on episode 9 with an amazing individual. She is a yoga instructor, a meditation instructor as well. I'm sure she's going to tell us a bunch of other things that she's adept in, because she's been deep in the holistic wellness world for a long time, and that's how we met. We met at a local yoga studio, and we just were captivated by her presence. Artory DTLA wants to introduce you guys to Sarah Helt. Welcome, Sarah.
And, and we have her here today because not only is yoga good for everyone, and all forms of holistic, movement, and any kind of movement is good for the body, for any workforce that you're in, for anything, really. Yeah. But we want to make sure to highlight that this is, just as important for artists, and a lot, even thinking about myself with all the murals that I've done this week, like sitting in one place for a long time can really take a toll on your body. So that's why we have her here today, to kind of motivate you and inspire you to just remember to move. Yeah. Really. So.
Yeah, and to understand that not only when it comes to the creative process are you coming up with interesting concepts, but it also involves a certain type of mindset that kind of helps aid in the process. And so for me, it's yoga has always been, yoga, meditation, and all these other kind of practices has always helped with my creative process. And I think we'd love to hear from her own words about what it's like to incorporate those things together, as well as some other interesting things she has going on in her life. So, yeah.
So there we go.
There it is. We got that all out of the way.
So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be
sure.
here and share time and space with you. And this was like the first time I've been out of my apartment in almost 365 days.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Like this is coming up on a year-long anniversary of us being in quarantine. So this is
it's been a
really special event to share with people and in community with many others.
Yes.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you being here for that. That's an occasion for sure. Yeah.
I definitely feel like watching you, Julia came and painted a mural in my home recently. I was thinking of how to make your artistic practice sustainable, right, for like your entire lives, right, or your entire life. And I think that's kind of something that yoga can really contribute to us all, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, like if you don't move it, you lose it, right? That's the phrase or something.
Yeah,
that
sounds very succinct. Yeah.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yes.
Right? So I feel like also when you overuse it, you abuse it.
For sure.
And as artists, you're doing a lot of the same habitual movements. And you want to have some sort of stretching. And also, I feel like creating art is a spiritual practice in and of itself.
Yes.
It's like taking something from the ether and bringing it into actuality in the physical world, and that's like that union is the definition of yoga.
Yeah,
exactly.
Funny enough, I've been reading this book called The War on Resistance, or The War of Art, actually, and it basically kind of talks about those concepts of what blocks us from creating, what blocks us from these like everyday kind of really important purposes that we were brought on this earth to kind of fulfill. And one of the things that they do talk about is that idea that what your art is you're bringing the potential of these beautiful things that we've all kind of experienced, like amazing compositions from like Beethoven or Mozart. Like there's always the potential for it until they were able to listen to some kind of inspiration that brought that into the physical realm. And I think that you definitely hit that right on the head for sure.
And often that inspiration comes from nature. Often that inspiration is like the song of a bird or a babbling brook, or the flow state that you can get when you are just walking or practicing yoga, or kind of taking your mind off the desire to create, or the need to finish the project. I also think that's a big place where artists get stuck, right?
For sure.
I've been playing in quarantine with, I have a ukulele, and I had it for about 6 years, and I've gotten more into chanting in my practice and mantra work within yoga, and so I wanted to be able to accompany myself. And that process of making a song, bringing something to fruition, can be so ecstatic and erotic and all of those exciting words, and it can also be the most incredibly frustrating and stunting thing. I have a whole new respect for musicians, for music maker artists, after having just dabbled in the past 12 months, and it's incredible how those little ideas, like an earworm, those little ideas get stuck in your head, and you're like, I have to create it, but it's almost like you have to get your mind off of it. You have to let the energy flow through you in order for it to actually come into reality, come into completion.
Yeah.
I definitely see a lot of that, those concepts of stepping back, taking some time to let things kind of digest, and just with how this past year has gone, for sure. And I think that'd be an interesting kind of place to start. I mean, you know, full-time yoga instructor. I feel like for anyone who's kind of in that service industry, to have, I guess the main source of how we looked at, how you provide these, I think, these very, very important services, to have that kind of taken away from you. How have you, found your way to step back and kind of readdress how to kind of formulate your business?
Wow. Oh, wow. That's such a big question.
It is. I went in deep.
Where to begin? Well,
start from the beginning then.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's so funny. I had asked them, what's going to happen here? And Julia was like, I'm going to bring up all your childhood trauma. Joking. But this past year, right, has been traumatic for us all, to say the least. So absolutely, it's funny, again, the anniversary, basically, almost to the day.
Yeah, literally.
Of losing everything. Yeah. So as a yoga teacher, you basically make your income piecing together a number of studios, which requires you to, in the Los Angeles area in particular, travel a lot. I feel like this will probably resonate with a lot of artists as well. It's like you have many different projects you're doing at one time often. It's rare that you get one giant commission probably that's going to pay your way. You're doing a lot of little projects and selling smaller things in hopes that someone will buy the big thing. And that's kind of what we do as yoga teachers. We have a lot of group-led classes, and then we have larger programs like teacher trainings and workshops that are kind of like the larger money makers. But when everything shut down and we weren't able to be in community and be together, I mean, there was full stop, full screeching stop, halt. So the first thing we all had to do as yoga teachers and mindfulness professionals was to learn how to go online. I acquired a camera that I still don't know how to use. Thank God for my laptop and the camera in my laptop, and figured out sound and all of those things. But teaching is so different in person than online, and that energetic experience, that sharing experience it's not it's completely not there, but it is definitely not entirely there. I will say that I'd like to focus on the gifts that I feel like this year has kind of served me, along with many frustrations and challenges and difficulty. I feel like piecing together all of those things and traveling from studios to studio or from client to client was a very fast-paced. In terms of kind of traditional Chinese medicine, we have yin and yang energies. It's a very yang energy, very hot, very fiery, very scattered, and very draining. I also worked at two actually spaces of my three predominant spaces were hot studios, which was also kind of energetically and physically draining. But also I get energy from people, from sharing time with people. I'm super extroverted, and that transference, the yoga speaks for itself, and people give you a lot of the credit for it. But those conversations I really miss having. But I think the great gift was slowing down. Slowing down. So yes, a screeching halt was rather painful considering the speed at which I was going this time last year. But it allowed me to get back to things that I love to do, like getting back to walking in nature, which I had mentioned before as a way to kind of get your energy into the flow state so you can be more creative. I do like to do a number of things, not just yoga. I like to read. No, I like
Who would have thought?
but I like to play music. I also like to draw, and I'm not trying to make a living at that, but I felt like I had no time to do those things and to cook. Like I love to cook, but I felt like I was kind of doing like meal prep, like emergency. And so like now I have the time to slow down and really live with the principles that I was teaching on a daily basis,
For sure.
which require a more yin energy or a slower, more sustainable energy. So in terms of my business, I actually restructured my business. You had mentioned that like this is a great resource ostensibly, like for people, like these practices for your mind, body, soul, etc. So this is a resource, right? Like money is a resource, education is a resource, and our society has our resources not allocated equally, right? So my new business model is a donation-based structure. So you can, like, I always kind of joke, but it's real. You can toggle to the left and basically make any class with me for free. And also I have a tons of scholarships for my workshops and my trainings. So as I've gone online, I've kind of focused my business. I call myself Grounded Source Yoga, focus more on the elements of nature and implementing that within your practice, and also a more sustainable structure financially. So if you are having a difficult time, because COVID was a challenging time for a lot of us financially, you can still come in and take class.
Wow. That's so
perfect.
cool.
Yeah, and I had really wanted
Just
to
what we
do
all
that.
needed.
Yeah, right. I really had wanted to do that for a long time, but I hadn't been able to feel like I could. Right? You know, like I feel like this city, like the city of Los Angeles, and often in the arts world in general. I was an actor before I was a yoga teacher, and that is like the heart, a hustle, artistic hustle, like to the nth degree. And I feel like this city is really like very young, very scattered, and like also really challenging. Like it can really drain you and fragment you into many different ways. And I think that this year I have felt grounded in Los Angeles for the first time in 5 years of living here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really really consuming. I just did an interview with Voyage LA, and they ask you what the pros and cons are of living in LA.
Oh my gosh! They asked me to do that interview too, and I couldn't.
Really?
I was like, these questions.
Did they just recently?
Just recently, like a month ago.
Oh, wow.
I like meant to do it. I had done one a couple of years ago. They had asked me, and the questions were big. Like how did you transform your business? Yeah. And I feel like I have made changes in the past like 3 weeks that have taken this full year to accomplish.
Yeah, but I mean, talking about, it took me probably like 4 or 5 hours to do that interview, where I was like, I did not expect to spend like half my day on this.
I mean, it's a total reassessment of what you've done this past year, or even how much so like the years accumulating to like this like kind of revision took. I mean, it definitely is, I'm sure. I've definitely been putting off too, because they definitely reached out to me, so I'm like, oh my God.
It's one of those. But
we want to do it, Voyage LA, if you're here. We want to
thank you.
We're really appreciative.
We appreciate
it. It was just hard. The questions were hard.
They're very intense, But I mean, but the pros and cons of LA, like I was thinking about it, and I was like, I was able to get some things out of myself that I didn't realize that I appreciated about LA, you know, like the thriving like energy that is here, which is good in so many ways. Like it can be chaotic. Like first of all, the con that I put was that it's so consuming to be here, and consuming for your body, consuming for your thoughts, just consuming for your life and where you want to go, and you think you want to do everything all of a sudden because everything is here, you know. And then obviously the aspects of creativity that are here for artists and for, you know, people who are trying to connect with people in other countries even. I mean, we're just like this big hub, you know, for everything. And it's so amazing. But yes, it can be like so overwhelming. And so, I mean, I think that's obviously a big, besides the fact that LA is that kind of progressive, like, type of city where everybody wants to do yoga because it's cool, but also because we have so many things here that are overwhelming and we really need it. Like, we really need something to remind us to relax and to slow down.
So, breathe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with COVID this last year being a respiratory disease. Yeah. I mean, what better time to reassess how you are breathing, which is like prana, chi, the life force energy. Like, how are you taking in life force energy? Because honestly, like there is a wealth of it. There's so much energy in LA, and you can tap into it, but you can't take it all at once. You can't like drink the whole bottle.
Yes. Yes.
And one thing I think I've really appreciated this past year is, again, the nature, like the natural. Like I mean, when I was running around town, going to a bunch of different neighborhoods to teach different studios, etc. I wasn't hiking as much as I've hiked this year. I also didn't appreciate like when trails were closed. I was like,
I know, right?
Oh my gosh,
that was
like,
so
that
tragic.
Could have been the worst thing that the city did.
I was like,
do you want us to stay inside and we can now not go outside as well? Like, what are some people are losing their minds?
It definitely hit to the core for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the ocean has been so therapeutic.
Yeah, and you just recently took a dip in, right?
I did.
was like,
that's so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I did. Last week. That's so funny. It was really cold.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I heard a weather report today. I was like, it's 56 as the high today at the beach. And I was like, wow, the water is freezing.
I was feeling bold. But I recently, in all of this stress that accumulated, which we've all been feeling, really took a toll on my health. And really took it, and in that way took a toll on my yoga practice. Like I would maybe consider myself like maybe a more athletic practitioner, even though I teach a lot of I teach the aging population. I teach people with disabilities. My focus is actually augmenting the practice for people who are not the traditional, whatever traditional is, because traditional would actually be like a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah, literally.
And now like modern Western yogi is usually like a 20 to 30 something white affluent lady, woman. But so my specialty in yoga was actually teaching to marginalized populations prior to this, and my kind of hot power vinyasa money that I made there helped me and allowed me to do more of this free work, this like complementary work. But back to the beach. My health suffered a lot this year. Had like a lot of issues just based on the overall stress, like lack of sleep, heightened anxiety, things that I think we are all dealing with, and certainly dealt with when we like lost all of our resources together, like kind of communally. And I started working with an acupuncturist, and I started working slowly. Like I basically had to take my practice down to the floor, like lay down, like just lay down and acknowledge what is, like acknowledge that this is happening. Like we can't push away all that is occurring. This is happening. It's okay to experience the trauma.
Truth.
Right? Yeah. And we will overcome. The only way out is through. Right? And so in doing so, I ended up spending like a year doing very few larger postures that you maybe like see on Instagram and stuff, like fewer inversions, way fewer back bends. Those are big hip opening postures. So as is like the main hip flexor muscle, it's also the main stress holding muscle. Also called muscle of the soul, by the way. Yeah. If your soul feels constricted, then you don't want to open it up. And one of the things that my acupuncturist encouraged me to do is get into water. Having, like I said, this kind of like fiery city that we live in, we also live in a climate that doesn't really cool off that much. So there's like a lot of fire of competition, fire of ambition and drive, like all the metaphorical and like literal. Last year we had all those forest fires.
Oh wow, yeah.
You know, like oh my goodness, like literally surrounded by fire. So my acupuncturist encouraged me to get into water as much as I could. So so I've been taking frigid dips in the ocean.
Beautiful.
Well, what I just recently learned, I had a friend send me a video, and it was Russell Brand interviewing Wim Hof. Do you know Wim
Yes,
Hof?
of course I know
The
Wim
Iceman.
Hof.
If you
The
don't
Iceman
know,
himself.
if you
Yes.
don't know the
Yeah.
Iceman, Wim Hof climbed Mount Everest in his swim trunks successfully.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is a crazy guy. He's got lots of good knowledge. Look him up. But she had sent me this video, and she loves Wim Hof, and she's always talking about Wim Hof, and that's how Alex and I learned about him. But she sent me another video, and the first few things that they talked about was obviously the fact that he is able to go in all of these frigid temperatures, and it's all through the practice of breath and like
ostensibly pranayama.
right.
Yeah.
Prana
Totally.
means life force, energy, breath, like we were saying, and yama means like restraint, restriction, or like I like to say augmentation. So we don't think of controlling the breath, but creating a new structure to it.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a very good way to put
Yeah.
it. But the main point, I guess, of the intro that they immediately started talking about was the fact that we need to put our bodies in extreme temperatures. And one of the biggest diseases in the body is cardiovascular disease. And that's because we aren't submitting to these intense temperatures like extreme heat and extreme cold, and we are allowing our bodies to sit in this state, this middle state of comfortability, and it's not doing us any good. It's not doing us any favors. And I was like, I mean, I feel like I knew that, but hearing it again, and so directly and so quickly, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I was like, and I'm not the best at it still, but every once in a while I'll just go right into a cold shower, and I'm like, this is fine. I need this for my body, but I'm still struggling with trying to.
Before this, I was
nice.
nervous. Cold shower. That'll work.
Yes.
Yeah.
But another reminder, just you talking about going in the frigid ocean, it was just put your bodies to the test, trust your bodies. And another thing with the whole, with the virus being what it is, our bodies have the ability to fight that off in so many ways, and we have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves so that we can allow our bodies to actually do that. And yoga and breath, just simple breath, is the number one to really help yourself get through that. And so just remember to breathe.
Oh,
That's what I'm trying to say.
Breathe.
Should we let's all take a big deep breath together.
I like to do that.
Let's do it.
One more. One more. Just kidding. I'm gonna blow out the candle.
We're gonna get caught. We're caught in the breath.
Yeah. So this is now turned into a full workshop, and we'll be breathing for the next
This is a
half hour.
meditation now.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm into it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting the way you described breath in terms of augmentation. It almost becomes like an art form in itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it almost becomes like a dance between you and the breath.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that same book that I was reading. They were talking about how in meditation, this guy had this vision of an eagle, and about how the air to an eagle is like a physical presence, and that there's no way of falling down. It's something that actually all they need to do is this one flap of the wings, and it's literally pushing against the earth to them. And if you look about that in terms of tangible aspects,
You're
of
truly speaking to Sarah right now. 'Cause she's such a big bird person.
oh,
It's true.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm a huge bird nerd.
Really?
It's true. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I've actually, I have. Oh my gosh, we could really open up a huge can of worms. I had
Please.
I had a massive visualization of being an eagle once
Really?
in Peru. Yes.
Wow.
Under the influence of some plant medicine.
Hey.
Of course.
But I mean, under the influence, or augmenting my spiritual self with
For sure.
the presence of Mother Earth.
When
in the form. Of
how
an
long
eagle's
ago was
nest.
this?
2019, fall of 2019.
Was that when you went to Machu Picchu?
Yes.
Oh, very cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah, 2019 was my highest grossing fiscal year as a yoga teacher.
Hell yeah. There you go.
It was also, I was traveling and teaching with the Accessible Yoga Organization, which is an incredible organization and has greatly grown through this past year. And I highly recommend checking them out. The Accessible Yoga Organization, they have 2 conferences a year. Again, tons of affordable education and resources. I'm really like proud of being a part of that organization.
Uh-huh.
And in 2019, I led my first retreat, and it was
wow.
to Peru.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it was 10 days. It was an all-female retreat. It wasn't necessarily my intention, but I'm kind of glad that it ended up being that way. It was like a really safe place for us all to change and transform. It was a beautiful experience. Machu Picchu was incredible. I mean, no regrets, no regrets whatsoever. And then I stayed an extra 7 days with my good friend Shannon,
so cool.
and we found a shaman to do ayahuasca, to have a ceremony with.
Oh my goodness.
2-day ceremony. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had read a book.
I had read stars.
Yeah, I read a book, I think, for when I first moved to Los Angeles. I lived in the Los Angeles Eco Village. Also an incredible organization if you're curious about intentional living and living in community, living in union with the nature, and living in an urban environment.
Where's that located?
It's on Bimini and First, so it's in Koreatown, like near 3rd and Vermont.
Okay.
They used to pre-COVID. I don't know what they're doing now. They might be on Zoom, but they had community dinners, so you could come and hang out with the community and kind of like catch the vibe, so to speak, and like see what it was all about. When I first moved here, I moved to the Eco Village, and there was a book called The Cosmic Serpent, and it was just the person who I was renting from had this like really cool array of books on subjects that I had never had the inclination to study before, and it was about traditions of basically the Cosmic Serpent being a giver of education, kind of like Eve and the apple and that kind of Judeo-Christian story that we know where women get blamed for all of the things.
Yeah. The demise of humanity.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
But basically that this cosmic serpent, or this idea of the snake of knowledge, is across many different cultures, including the ayahuasca tradition. And in Peru, the ayahuasca is considered the snake, then comes like as you drink, it truly does feel like there is like a serpent inside of you. And there's a lot of musical aspect to that as well. I mean, those ceremonies are an art form in and of themselves, in my opinion. And then you commune with that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I kind of had like, they say like when you decide to do it, the ceremony has begun. And I think that I decided after I read that book that it was something that I wanted to do, and it took me like 4 years to
like manifest it, really.
To manifest it, yeah.
Wow.
And because I can't justify, I can't always justify for me like psychedelics. Like I like psychedelics, but I need to be intentional. I want to be intentional with everything.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I want to be intentional with everything I do, including my relationship to other human, my relationships to my work, and my relationships to my body, my relationships to nature, and my relationship to psychedelic drugs that come from nature. So yeah, it took me 4 years to kind of really manifest that experience in the way that I wanted to have it. And so I had a total giant eagle experience.
They've already forgot where
you had asked me earlier like what I did this morning, and had my own yoga practice this morning, and I'm slowly working my way back into some deeper postures after processing a lot of this year. And then I started taking Qigong with a man named Kyle Skinner, who does Zoom classes, donation-based, out of San Diego. And we draw up the earth, and we like pull our wings apart. And like, it's just exceptional small movement work. Yeah, and I had kind of borrowed from other Eastern traditions and implemented them into my yoga classes. And I think that's kind of a part of what made them special. And I think these are like the little things that like this whole conversation began, like with Beethoven and these artists, like pulling from the ether something special, or having that last little piece of inspiration that really draws the art from you. And I think that often comes from our relationship to nature.
Truth.
Yeah.
When you got back, I want to ask a little bit more about the ayahuasca experience, actually.
Sure.
Mine is coming. I know I would never just be like,
has begun.
No, I can feel that it's coming. It has to be like it has to be right. Like I would never just jump in and be like, oh, I'm going to do this because You know, because it's all around us. Because I know that there's ceremonies happening in LA all the time, and I was like, I would never just do it just to do it. It has to be purposeful, and it has to be. I have to be called to it.
If you go down to Cusco, like if you go down to Peru, like there are guys in the street, like they're on Hollywood Boulevard, going like, "Do you need marijuana? You need ayahuasca?" You know, like you want to watch
all over the place.
You know, like they're just like asking. They ask you, and you're like,
It's like so commonplace of a way to be introduced to it.
This is exactly like I didn't want to be in ceremony with 75 other Americans in a foreign land.
I was wondering, I guess my same feeling about psychedelics as you're kind of having is that, or my personal feeling for it is that I feel like it would take me away from my creativity in a sense. Like I'm scared of the result of it taking something from me rather than it giving something to me, which I know sounds ridiculous. I guess it's just like an irrational fear.
What makes you think that something would be taken away?
I don't know. I feel like I would wake up out of it, and then I would just like have this realization that it was never supposed to be like who I am, or like an artist or something.
Maybe you should not do it for a while.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the intention to experiment with that kind of just medium in itself, in a way, I don't know, what am I trying to say? That remedy. Yeah. I know that remedy or whatever that people generally use to kind of like figure themselves out. Like like I said, I want it to be intentional, but I just have all these like irrational fears at the same time that it is going to like hinder, and so
it's illegal.
It's
also illegal.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
PSA. A little caveat there.
Advocating.
No, we're not advocating.
For
we're
illegal
just
substance use in any way, shape, or form.
True.
But for spiritual experiences that come from the earth. Yeah. Which I think you can have a number of those experiences.
That's true.
Without that particular experience.
Yes, that's very true.
I mean, that's how I kind of got into meditation, actually, because I was always trying to kind of do the shortcut by
that's
doing.
That's what I was just going to bring up. I'm so glad.
Literally.
You brought that up.
No, I think
drugs, right?
Seriously.
So the shortcut to enlightenment. I mean, if you read the Yoga Sutras, actually, the Satchidananda translation, he talks about how you can take LSD, you can take mushrooms, you can smoke marijuana, and you might reach these heightened states of awareness faster, but you can't maintain it.
Definitely
you won't
not.
be able to sustain it, right? Again, to like go back to that point of like sustainability. Absolutely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, please. I mean, I had to learn the hard way, I guess, because I was doing a lot of LSD, and to kind of touch on your subjects as well in terms of art, in terms of creativity, I thought that was going to be my way to tap into it. And I remember I went on like a 2-week like binge on LSD, doing like LSD in the morning every day, and then seeing kind of where it took me. But it kind of cheapened. I mean, in hindsight, it cheapened the experience, because looking back on it now and to see how I can approach it now with these mindful tools like yoga, which is, again, I think the whole process is a yogic process, because even the urge to try to push yourself into something is almost like the urge to push yourself into like an asana pose that you're not ready for because you're not open enough yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
I was going to just bring up sequencing and how oftentimes like there are lots of very pretty movements that people string together, or like often, like I said, I was a performer before I was a yoga teacher, so there was like a lot of dance in my background, and like a lot of people who become yoga teachers are often retired dancers, or people who decide to choose that career field because it's more spiritually fulfilling for them, or it's safer on their bodies, and yet they are more inclined to an egoistic perspective, which is like designing a class so it's like funky, or like it's hip hop, or it's like yoga and wine, or like goat yoga, like things that have ostensibly like appropriated and strip the philosophy from the practice, strip really the foundation from the practice. And so I don't know what people want to do with that, other than be more flexible, other than have like, again, something that is very, there's some incredible Rumi quote that's like, this is merely a garment, seek the wearer, not the robe, or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the body is a garment, seek the wearer, not the robe. I think that is the quote. So it's like we are only wearing these skin sacks temporarily. Like you better treat it really well. Sticking your ankle behind your head isn't necessarily treating your body as sustainably, right? But it may make you feel good in the moment. Again, also like drugs. Also kind of like my perspective on hot yoga has kind of always been like it may make you feel like you're doing the fastest, hardest, hottest thing. But is that actually serving you in the long run? You know, if you do a 6 a.m. practice that's super hard and super hot and you spend 110% of your energy trying to impress the teacher or trying to impress yourself, because usually it's you are really in battle with yourself, and then you go to work and you're completely exhausted and you can't function, like that's not sustainable.
Truth. How long did it take you to kind of come to these realizations? Because so how about you walk us through, so you were a performer, and then when did you make that transition to yoga?
Probably around 2013, 2014.
Okay.
So I finished college and I traveled through Australia and lived in Australia for a year.
Nice.
And then I returned. I was always really interested in travel. Like a part of wanting to be an actor was actually, I was a theater performer. I enjoyed, again, the communal aspect of it, sharing the experience with the audience. And then I actually really admired the idea of being on the road and seeing everything. I'm from Iowa originally, Des Moines, Iowa, which wasn't offering me a lot of culture.
Not a place like that.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I still, my friends and family still live there, and I love going back. I'm actually traveling for the first time in a year. I'm going home next week to see my family. But I wanted to see the world so desperately. And share art. Like art is the only real maker of truth. I was really into that ever since I was a little kid. I kind of knew I would have a different life. I remember my cousin asked me when I was 16 if I would ever get married, and I said, probably no, I'll just take a lover and grow old. Really artistic, romanticized.
Very whimsical.
Desires in my life. So when I was 18, I moved to New York, and then I moved back to Iowa to finish my degree, and then after that moved to Australia. And I was introduced to yoga through my advanced movement studies professor. So I was in a clowning class.
Whoa.
And, with like a red nose.
Really?
It was an advanced class, by the way. You had to audition to get into it. You had to have permission. Yeah, it was a big deal. And he had been a clown in France in I think in the late 60s and 70s. He was such a cool dude.
Wow.
And he really saw something in me that I didn't like. He connected with me through the movement and the way that I was quite, I feel like sincere is the word I want to use. I was really sincere in everything I did as a performer. And he was like, you should really take my yoga class. And then I took it, and he was like, you should really I wouldn't mind if you would TA my summer intensive. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he was like, you should really think about being a teacher. And I was like, no, I'm an actor. Never. And then I moved to Australia and got my teaching certificate in Bali. And I just practice every day. And it totally it transformed my life. I was calm. I was vibrant. I was strong. I was independent. I was loving. I was generous. And I received all those things in kind. And I was like, wow, this is great. This is a great thing.
Yeah.
And then when I got back from that experience, I started to audition for theatrical things. And I started to audition for yoga jobs. And they were called the same thing. You had an audition process.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, I just got every yoga job I ever applied for.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I can
It's
understand
meant to
why.
be, yeah.
I've taken her class. It's freaking awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
It seemed like a sign. Seemed like a sign, especially, when it was really fulfilling, because I had loved the audience, the interpersonal relationship there. And I also was very much a process person as an actor. I love rehearsal.
Yeah.
I love trying it again and again and again. And I love reading. I loved reading plays and reading literature from different time periods and changing the setting. I thought at one point I would direct, go back to school for directing. And So all of those things together, kind of like make a yoga teacher.
Oh, for sure.
You know, I'm directing my own life. It is a very creative process on a daily basis. I have to really hold to my center because there are a lot of egos within the kind of fitness and yoga world. And then there are a lot of egos within the spiritual world. We know we're all trying to hustle.
Yeah.
And there is an abundance. There's plenty, you know.
Yeah.
There's plenty to be had. So I think that's kind of the timeline. So I just really, and then I was introduced to working with disabled athletes in 2013, and I got kind of picked up and taken for a ride, for a wonderful adventure with this organization called Dare to Try, which teaches people to run, bike, and swim, and people with disabilities to participate in triathlons.
Whoa.
And as not an endurance athlete by any means, that was a whole new world as well. Also being from more of a fitnessy and super able-bodied, fit yoga background, changing my teaching style to fit the people in front of me, served me great sense of purpose, joy, and satisfaction, and was super creative. You know, if someone can't stand on their legs, how do you teach Warrior 2? That is normally a standing foundational pose. How can you create the same energetic effect, the same spiritual effect, the same grounding effect when the body is shaped differently, or the body isn't able to do everything that your body can do?
Wow.
I mean, all you need is breath and a body to do yoga.
Amen.
Yep, amen to that.
Yeah. That's so cool.
I definitely stole that from my mentor, Jivana Heyman, by the way, to give him credit. Shout out.
Yeah. That's so amazing. I mean, so it really sounds like you're an artist in yourself. Would you consider what you do an art?
100%.
Would you consider?
I actually just had this conversation with my friend Joe, because he also is an actor, and now we both, we kind of do what we do now. He models, he takes acting gigs, he also does some fitness work. And I said, do you still consider yourself an actor? Because I actually had a very visceral reaction to my mentor, actually, to Jivana introducing me to a large cohort of students at a training online last year. He introduced me as a former actress.
Okay.
And I was like, please don't reference those days. I'm not that, because I think actors get a really bad rap, I think.
What do you think?
I think actors and musicians, maybe artists in general, get a bad rap as being narcissistic or
or prima donna kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Or I think actors as liars, as people who are disingenuous,
like chameleons almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't appreciate that association,
Yeah.
And so what was really interesting is that my mentor had said, hey, you seemed a little defensive today. And I was like, yeah, you called me what I am. Well, I didn't say that, but what I realized in writing back to him, angry thumbs, is that oh, you know me, and you told people who I was.
How dare you?
How dare you? And I realized in that moment how much of myself I had been keeping secret, maybe, or keeping at bay for fear of judgment, which, as I had said earlier, the only person that you are competing with on your mat is you. The teacher does not care. How high you can kick, or how long you can hold. It's about whether or not you can return to your breath without objection. Whether you can return to yourself with love and compassion, and not judgment. And so I've found all this judgment against myself. And I was
Wow.
I didn't know that was there. And so I had to reevaluate, and I started to, I spoke to another friend of mine who scoffed. When we had first met, he was like, oh, actors. And I was like, look, I think there are two types of actors. There are attention seekers who maybe didn't receive enough attention when they were children, and they love that, or they thrive on it. They're extroverts, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
And then there are truth seekers, right? We used to have to write all the time. When you're an actor, they force you to write these essays all the time about why you need to do this. because it's such a difficult profession. I think they make artists do this, but like often we are assigned like, what is your thesis as an artist, right? I assume like, what is your mission as an artist?
Yep. It's the same. Yeah.
Absolutely. And my mission was always like, I want to portray a character so truthfully on stage that people feel they can be more honest in their daily lives.
That's awesome.
And I think that's what I do now.
Yeah.
So I am an artist.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Plus piecing together, piecing together movement to create a feeling or an energetic effect, or even just simply comfort and ease within the body. I think it's definitely an art in and of itself.
And I mean, with that, I'd like to point out the fact, I mean, the main reason why you're here is to explain the importance of all of that, which was just said, and relating that to creative fields. And I think when you're just right now talking about, you know, the idea of artists in all different mediums having this sort of like egotistical kind of just personality, and just like, you know, oh, they just have this look about them, and a lot of them feel, I'm sure internally the same way. Like they have all these moments of like just being really prideful of themselves, and just like, and then also being really doubtful of themselves, and like experiencing that in such an intense way, because a lot of artists spend a lot of time alone too, and so we get in our heads. And I wanted to bring up the fact that last night even I was like feeling so terrible about my being an artist, because even after doing 2 murals this week, I was still like, I'm not happy with anything that I'm doing, and I'm not, you know, just the success didn't really feel there for me, and I was feeling really sad, and I was like getting stuck within myself and in my body, and feeling so like tense and overwhelmed. And I did wake up this morning feeling like I need to do better for myself, and I did do your yoga flows this morning, and it did actually help me a lot. And I say all this because I know that I'm not alone out there with the other artists, you know, and we get stuck in our head, and we just tell ourselves the same story over and over again. And if we're not actively moving ourselves and moving our minds and breathing and having conversations with other artists and other people, then it just stays that way, and you get more and more tense, and you start to hunch over more and more and more, and you're like, I'm worthless, you know, like it all just kind of like tears onto each other. And so
because the body is the mind.
Yes.
The body is the mind.
Yes. Yeah. So keep breathing, keep moving, you know, this is super important. And if you hadn't seen already, for those who are watching, we did post a video earlier on Artory and on Happening that Sarah has led for just a good little bit on just upper body strength, and just getting your wrists a little bit stretched out, getting your shoulders, your back, all those things that affect artists all the time in all different mediums. And we have a lower body one, we just haven't posted it yet, but we have plans for that. But please enjoy that, the video that we have of Sarah.
The offering.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to make that note.
No, I mean, I think that's awesome that you felt I guess comfortable enough to share that aspect of, you know, what you go through. Because I mean, I think like you said, we all go through it, and I'm very much a huge advocate for making sure that, you know, I'm doing some sort of yoga, some sort of meditation before I do anything, because it gets you into that mindset, right?
Absolutely. Well, I feel like as artists, there is because we spend a lot of time alone, and I was just speaking to my other mentor, Joan Hyman, about this on Thursday, that this is like a very lonely profession. And I think that there is also a lot of shame that comes with a solitary lifestyle, or a lifestyle where you are creating with an unseen force, right? And like the definition of yoga, like I said, is to unite, is to draw together. And so you as artists are practicing yoga, whether, you know, through the creation of your art, whether you know it or associate yourself with yoga at all, you know, that union. And I think other people don't, the normies, right? The muggles of the world, right? Like, maybe,
there's
always lots of hearts of that, right? Like,
there's always a Harry Potter reference in there somewhere.
Right? Like, that's funny. Like, sometimes other people don't understand. You know, like, we're over here, of course, because we're creating magic. I love that there's always a Harry Potter. Like, we're creating magic, and people who don't understand that unseen relationship often project their fear onto you, project their shame or their own wishing that they could create as well. And so the more that we can move, the more that we can create positive neurological pathways and physical pathways for ourselves. Like I had said, right, like I had to return to like the source, right? I had to like literally just like lay down most of last year. And I have started to pick myself back up again.
It's beautiful.
And standing, like simply taking, we have mountain pose, Tadasana, and like saying to myself, like, I am the mountain, I am the mountain. Like that has been one of the most healing experiences, just drawing the outside in, right? And also understanding that I can change myself from the inside out, right? Create like protective shell, so negativisms bounce off from the external environment, and then you can beam whatever you want out into the world. Period.
That's
stop.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful. I mean, that sounds like a very beautiful practice. Was there ever a time that you kind of found yourself away from your practice?
100%, absolutely.
Interesting.
Here in LA, this has been the most. So I've lived here for about 5 years. I moved here at the end of 2015. This is. First of all, when I moved here, I had a lot of, kind of like I said, like a lot of early success in when I was living in Chicago. And when I moved to LA, my pay, because no one like knew me here, my pay was reduced by half by basically every studio that kind of started to pick me up. So that was a horrible ego, I don't know, blow, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then I got advice from a senior teacher that was like, practice everywhere, go everywhere, be everywhere, which is good advice. Also completely exhausting. You can't, when you are like, I would love to talk a little bit more about like resources and how,
Yeah, of course.
Because like art is a resource, it changes people's lives and is often inaccessible to people, because they don't have the financial resources to see it or to go to where it is held, right? Or to purchase it in their homes. And it's like the same in yoga, that's why there's all the like rich white ladies that are doing it with like, like when everyone should be doing it. Everyone should be enjoying art. Everyone should be able to pick their favorite piece and have it hanging in their living room. I mean, ideally, and it's the same with yoga practice. Like you can never take yoga away from anyone, but they have to, like, you kind of have to learn it first. But absolutely, I think there was a time when I moved here, it felt like a very competitive environment. I moved like 4 times the first year that I was here. So that was already really displacing, like in terms of foundation and the sense of being grounded in whatever I was doing, like Julia was saying earlier, like, what have I done? What am I doing with my life? So I overworked it. Just like really overworked it. And then I would say in 2020, when this first when like COVID and quarantine first went down, I actually like tripled my schedule online. Wow. 2 of my yoga studios went like seamlessly online, and I was just like, sure, yeah. And then like if any other person, I happen to be like a trauma-informed yoga instructor. If any other teacher was feeling overwhelmed by the situation, which is an overwhelming situation, I'm kind of type A, and I feel like I have the training. Let me do it. I'll do it. I'll do anything. Do anything you want me to do. What do you need? You rest. I'll do it. And then I found myself teaching like 23 classes to the ether. Wow. Like to like my cell phone, a week. Wow. Completely, and these are like flow classes. Just completely burned myself out. Like 0, full stop, adrenal fatigue. Had to lay down. Wow. Yeah, and when you don't use it, you lose it. So now to be the age I am, which is older than the age I was before.
That's how it works.
Right? And to have spent nearly 365 days away from my practice after like a decade of being pretty full on. I also had an injury in 2016, which kind of I had to pull back, but I still practiced and taught. But after this last year, I mean, I have a new body. I have a totally new body. The other day, I was standing in Tadasana with my mentor, and she was like, that okay? Like, how are you feeling? We had done something simple, something foundational, and I was like, whoa. And I just stood at the top of my mat, and she asked me if I was all right, and I said, I feel like I don't know this body.
Interesting. Wow.
Which is, actually, it was amazing because it was stronger than I remembered it. You know, like
sure.
I think I've always been quite a flexible person, like kind of like I said, like, oh, if you need a thing, like I can carry all the things, I can do all the stuff. You know, I read all the books. I got this. I can do all the, I got this, totally. I didn't got this, like, in 2020. I mean, I don't really know who did. I don't really know who did. We just, like, survived, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so to find myself just now, yes, I have felt disassociated from my practice before, basically through all of 2020. Wow. God bless 2021.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. Wow.
If we're going to continue, we need to sign off of Instagram because they will only let you film for an hour, and we like to jump over to YouTube if we can.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm curious what the comments are. I hope they're fun.
If there's any questions, we could answer some questions.
Let's see. Joe said, yoga has allowed me to keep up with recovery and is part of my daily way of staying alive. I'm so thankful to teachers like Sarah who share their knowledge online.
Yes, Joe. Yeah, he went through some heavy stuff. Bless you, Joe. We love you.
Yes. And
we're glad you found yoga to help your body and your mind.
Someone asked if they can join the live video.
No.
Two Virgos over here.
No.
No.
I'm sorry, who are you? I'm just kidding. We love all of you, but we can't have everyone joining. So I think we're going to jump over to YouTube now. Instagram, if you don't know, Instagram Live only lets you film for an hour, and then it cuts you off. And we prefer YouTube anyways because it is such better quality.
Very bad.
And I think it'll be a better format for everyone if you just hop right over. I think there's a link in the bio of Happening Downtown LA. You can jump over there. So
before we go, I want to wrap my t-shirt. Is a Victor Castillo t-shirt. And he's got a show coming up, so look him up on the grams.
Another wonderful artist.
Incredible artist. He's kind of like a pop surrealist. So
awesome.
Like good vibes for 2020, like dark and weird and cool vibes. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
For sure.
So if you'd like to continue watching, we're hopping over to YouTube. Like you said, like I just said, the link is in the bio. Thank you to Happening for having us here, just to kind of sign off here, and thank you to Wilshire 1001 for hosting us here. We really appreciate you. You
guys make it all possible. So, and thank you to the viewers who are listening and tuning in on IG Live. We love you and appreciate you, and we'll see you soon, and hopefully on YouTube.
Yeah, see you on YouTube.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. All right, hit that button.
This other
over 1,000 viewers.
Wow, that's really exciting.
Very cool.
I reposted it a lot on my story. I thought that was pretty sweet that is the other camera going?
Still on YouTube.
Okay.
I feel like YouTube is a little more like every time we're on YouTube we're just like, oh,
it's
okay,
like because
this is what after hours.
Yeah, now it's like real after hours.
The late show. This should become red wine.
Yeah. Damn it, we didn't prepare the red wine. I wanted to ask you about, you were telling me about an idea you had.
I feel like I wasted all my good material on that first hour.
Oh.
No.
It's all still there. I wanted to, let me just turn this microphone off.
Cool.
I wanted to ask you were telling me about your idea for your retreat center. If that's, I can't remember if that's specifically what you wanted to call it. But it was kind of involving blending your practice and then also blending in community farming and all these other extra products, like homemade soaps and all the things. And
she's such a good listener.
She's incredible.
You can pretend like you don't know me, but you actually really know me very well because you are me and I am you, and so
Yes, we are one.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes, whoa.
It's got real trippy
That's
right
that's
now.
how that's how Virgos function.
I know, right? That's so true. That's really true.
No, but you had mentioned that you wanted art to be as accessible as you want yoga to be as well, and so I wanted you to kind of explain your vision for that, because I know you have all the ideas, and we always talk about that too.
Yeah, okay, so my big dream is to, I feel like in the past week, I kind of ironically have come across 2 other people who are doing similar things. And
Cool.
so I feel like I feel like we were kind of talking about the ego before. Like my ego could be like, oh no, I'm like, this idea's been done. But instead I was like, oh, amazing, because the more the merrier.
For sure.
Permaculture farming. I found out my Qigong instructor has just recently bought a farm in Oregon.
Whoa,
So, yeah,
that's so cool.
I know, it's
Yeah.
so wild. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. That is so like hit the synchronicity within that community and that relationship, and like, I mean, one of my little catchphrases recently has been, the air is not empty. Like if you ever experience, I mean, you guys are into it, okay? I don't need no explanation.
No, we felt that
one. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so my idea is to purchase land or have something that's like a land trust where many people within like a community of people would own the land together in a share. And that we would create kind of like a tiny house community or something to that effect, and that it would be a yoga and performance space, and there would be permaculture farming. So it would be a sustainable, there would be probably compost toilets, as I imagine, and some basically, so I recently kind of, I guess, rebranded, for lack of a better word, myself and my yoga business as Grounded Source Yoga, and I would like to create a platform for more teachers who teach holistically or about sustainability, even within an urban apartment, sustainable life, like how to compost in a Los Angeles apartment or in a New York small apartment, like how do you create less and less waste.
Right.
And so people who are educated in these things, I'd like to make an online platform for their teaching called Grounded Source Movement. So small movements, big change. So that's kind of like the whole grand plan would be many people. That is my slogan, trademark.
It's a really great slogan. No, it's awesome.
I feel like somebody else has probably already thought of that one as well.
But isn't that the beautiful thing, right? Is that we're all thinking about the same thing. So that means that our collective consciousness is pushing us definitely in the right direction,
Hopefully
right?
ascending a little bit, or both.
We're
Like that's how
stretching.
that's how every yoga pose works. Like when the yoga is actually working for you, you have like one grounding force and something moving in opposition to it. Like that's how you're holding balance. You ground down like the roots of a tree and you grow the crown of your head up towards the sky.
True.
So it is like, if our consciousness is, because I'm tired of the hierarchy that we need to like suppress all of our like human desires and needs, and like have a lot to say about like feminism and sexuality and this and the idea of dualism and patriarchy. Different podcast maybe. But I'm like kind of tired of the idea that we need to ascend, like to be enlightened means to ascend beyond the earth, like the great mother. There's like a lot of literature written about how the earth itself is associated with the divine feminine and with women and the suppression of that. And so the idea of like in yoga, there's an 8-limbed path, similar in many Buddhist structure. There's an 8-fold path, and the last step or whatever is samadhi. And often samadhi is translated as enlightenment. And when I teach my teacher trainings, I often ask people to define that for me. Can you define what enlightenment means to you? And for me, it is beyond dualistic thinking. It is not enlightenment as though I am dark in the dark and dark is base and wrong. I am already an enlightened being. But samadhi to me is equanimity, is like the joining. It is the union. I think when we see our like non-binary friends increasing in their ability to come out or speak to their needs, that we're seeing an ascension of consciousness, like moving forward past the duality of hypermasculine and hyperfemininity and creating more union. And hopefully then by giving to people that we associate with different from the societal norms of the past, right? As we increase the resources to everyone, then we will increase this samadhi, we'll increase this equanimity, the new definition of enlightenment.
No, I love it. No,
Sounds
for sure.
like she should have her own podcast.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about something like that?
I mean, I have because I love the sound of my own voice.
There you go.
No, because like after a year by myself in my apartment, I'm just like, yes. Is anybody there? Yeah, actually, I have thought of having a podcast. Recently, this past year, thinking of Grounded Source and my desire to look for land that wouldn't be like I wouldn't want to take land from anyone or any group of people, and so
we've done plenty of that. Yeah.
So my thought process would be also because of this last year and this obvious divide in our nation, it's like we just need to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I actually, like, this afternoon I was having a conversation with my mom, and it was originally over text, and she kind of came at me pretty hot. And I was like, you're coming at me pretty hot. And she was like, don't get defensive. And I was like, do you need to have a conversation with our mouths? Like, do you so I called her. I didn't say that.
That'd be so funny.
Really patronizing to my mom. No, but it was obvious. Like I got defensive because she came at me hot and blah blah blah. And I called her up, and I said, do you want to talk? She was like, yes.
Wow.
Like, thank you. I feel like nobody talks to me.
Aww.
You know, and I feel like that is everybody.
Truth.
Like, I think everybody feels there's so much the complacency we kind of talked about in the previous hour. There's so much tendency towards the comfort and secrecy within our kind of like social media like egos or like personalities that we create and manufacture. That is like it keeps, like I had said with my ego, like I kept parts of myself secret because I was afraid that other people would judge me, but I was judging myself.
Yes.
And so I think there's a lot of fear of self-reflection in our world, and the only way to heal from that is to have community. Because oftentimes you don't feel, when you are solitary, you don't feel you can heal on your own, or you feel like maybe you are in a sense of denial and you can't see it. You know, or you know that it's happening, but you just can't get past it. You know, and they've in rehabilitation programs for people with addiction, or rehabilitation programs for my friends and clients who've had spinal cord injuries. Statistically, people who have group and community heal faster. Exactly. Like they come to acceptance. You know, stronger. Right? Not necessarily sooner, because like healing happens in the time that it needs to happen, but in a more stronger, centered, and grounded manner because they have support. Right?
Truth.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like we need to communicate more.
Yeah.
Communication's key. Right?
And I think that's why we're kind of, we came onto this in the first place, to have this podcast, to like communicate with other artists and meet with other artists. It's because everyone has been in solitude, and it would just be so like awful for everyone to really lose touch and communication with each other, and artists to stop collaborating because they're too scared to be around each other, you know, or they just don't even remember how to talk to people in the first place, you know? And so we were like, this is the kind of thing where we couldn't necessarily wait until all of this is over for it to go forward. We were like, I mean, it happened so quickly for us, but I think thinking about it in retrospect, like it needed to happen when it happened, because we just couldn't wait, and we need the connection now. We needed it right now, and even if we, you know, had to come into contact with people in this room, like it was just, it's been so great to have people to like talk to, and we've already had, you know, collaboration, and we've had people, we have Linda and Patrick in our gallery, and it's going so well. Like people are wanting to buy their work, and they're wanting to connect, and they're, you know, we're having conversation, and it's been amazing. And it's just another reminder, like, please, like, reach out to other artists and reach out to other people who are close to you. They don't, I mean, I'm not even just talking to artists, I'm talking to everyone. Like, have a call your friends, you know?
Yeah, so if I would have a podcast, I would call it Land land, travel, talk. And I would go somewhere.
Yes.
If I did,
If I
it'd be
did,
this.
I've got an exact plan.
Have a schedule completely set up.
Yeah,
Which-
I have to Google that.
She has an amazing plan for that as
Uh-huh.
well with her. Did you tell Alex about your bus?
Oh my
The
God,
bus?
the RV?
The
Oh my
RV, yes,
gosh.
she has
Oh,
an
wow.
RV.
You
All
do?
my secret.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
sorry,
so
you don't
over
have to
the-
tell us
over
about
the
that
course
one.
of this year, so I love to travel. Like I said, in 2019, I led my first retreat to Peru, and that led me to make some plans to go to Iceland. I was really passionate about trying to see the Northern Lights and some other incredible places. I also have the intention of making those retreats in the future more accessible. So
Wow.
people who normally would not think that they could go in these places, I would create a circumstance where they feel safe and they feel like the retreat is prepared for them, because a lot of that is like a fear factor. You know?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So, oh my God. So I do have so many ideas, but so I was lamenting not being able to go anywhere, and also thinking that like perhaps my last partner was Swedish, and so I thought I might move to Scandinavia. And I had mentioned this to a good friend of mine, and she said, you know, like we all can't leave America, Sarah. You know, like, even if it gets like crazy here. You know, some of us have to, she said, I swear to God, she said to me something like, some of us have to stay here and fight for what's right. And it made me think like, whoa, I mean, hopefully there's not actually fighting in the streets, but also that, like you had said, the collective consciousness, like if we stay in close proximity, our air that is not empty will hopefully affect those around us. And as we continue to travel, so I thought, well, perhaps it's best if I stay at home in the US and travel around here and have some conversations. I mean, again, like it's not as though I'm the only person in the world who's had this idea or the only person in the United States, but I feel like there's an abundance.
There always
There's
is.
an abundance of people, and
For sure.
there is a lot of conversations that need to be had. Yeah, so I would call it land, travel, talk. And my dad and I acquired an RV, and so now I mean
That's
it's
so
happening
cool.
like kind of like one day at a time. Again, this going to Iowa this week will be the first time that I have seen it, because you know he like it's so funny. I mentioned it to him in passing, and like you know I was saying something like maybe I should turn my Jetta in and like trade it in for like a Subaru, or like something I could take camping, like maybe I should have gotten a Jeep or like something like that. And he was like, my friend Bob wants to sell his RV. You want an RV? Basically, and I was
Absolutely.
like okay. And then actually the ideas kind of started to form in my head, because I wanted to go out to Joshua Tree and film yoga and go to natural places and film.
That'd be
yoga.
so cool. Yeah.
And this is like before I actually met Kyle and started doing the Qigong, which is so wild. So I had started my grounded source yoga. My little tagline there was nurture the nature inside of you, because yoga is based on the principles of nature that, humans are mammals. They are creatures of the earth. We should treat ourselves as such. We should nourish ourselves from things that grow out of the ground, not things that are processed, and we should also nurture the external environment around us. And the principles of traditional Chinese medicine are the same. They're based on a 5-element theory, 5 elements that exist in nature. And I had been teaching some traditional Chinese medicine principles with my Yin teacher training programs and yoga. And Ayurveda, the sister science to yoga, again, based on nature. So all of this started to like pour in as I was laying down. For most of
You were just a
2020,
container.
just like, well, I think there's an old, I think it's Tibetan Buddhist, but there's an old kind of tagline that's where you basically sit in meditation and you ask to become a hollow reed, like make me a hollow reed for the spirit to flow through, or for the knowledge to come into.
Truth.
And so I just kept being like, make me a hollow reed. Make me a hollow reed, please. I will do. And anytime that I went camping or I went into nature, I would ask, what do you need me to do? Like, whatever you need me to do, Great Mother, just put the circumstances in my path, and I will do the best that I can. And I think that's also, not to go back to ayahuasca, but like, you do develop a deep relationship with, I mean, first of all, it's all about intention. But you are having I at least, and they say, whoever they are, that you have a conversation, you know, and other friends of mine who've engaged in more plant ceremonies than I say that they continue the conversation. Like once you have the ceremony and you ingest this part of nature, you can still kind of speak to her. You can still communicate. And I've personally found that to be very true.
That's awesome.
You know? Yeah, having had like big birds as my spirit animal. I think people laugh at spirit animals, but they're wonderful.
No, it's true.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Spirit totems, animal totems are actually a big part of how I move through the world. And it's incredible that even in an urban environment, like nature doesn't stop.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
I have did I show you that picture? There was like a juvenile red-tailed hawk, which is like the big bird that I associate myself with the most, in the magnolia tree right in front of my house.
I think you did show me that.
Yeah, I mean, it is literally like
like, hello, I'm here.
I don't know how I'm checking in on me. Like, I don't know how I caught it. But the power of that particular creature is to see things from above, to kind of like see the kind of global situation, or to see things from above. And I'm trying to tap into that, and to tap into like turtle energy, which is like
interesting,
maternal and slow moving and patient.
Oh, there you go. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, when you're finally able to take on your RV challenge, which will start out as a challenge, but will be so successful. And you'll have your land. I always say wrong. Land travel talk. And you'll have your podcast on your RV.
Oh my gosh.
And then you'll travel around and
better get it done, huh?
Yeah.
I mean,
sounds amazing
I think
already.
the beautiful thing is that it sounds like anything that you want or that you ask for, you get, right? And so it's so true. It's like you don't know when it's gonna come, but when it comes kind of in abundance, like you keep on saying.
People.
You know, so I'm happy that these are the things that are calling to you, and that it sounds like you're meeting them head on. I think it's needed. It's for sure needed.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
And the crazy synchronicities is I've been recently watching this one this one interviewer talks to former addicts, and they talk about their like moments where they transition from kind of ego-based, like these are my decisions in terms of how I'm dealing with my pain, to kind of transitioning to a more selfless, all right, obviously these things aren't working. How do I allow myself to be present for what is needed? And there was one interviewee that talked about how he would pray, like, whatever purpose I'm here for, put me in a position to be ready to like work your will, you know, whatever it is. And it's like that's been like such an affirmation in my life, and to see that it's translatable. It's like water. I feel like it's everywhere. You know, we're all kind of like drawn to each other in that kind of a way, and like a similar thread like weaves through all of us. So it's just awesome, because I mean, like I haven't talked to you since like hot 8th.
At least a full year, more than
yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, it's just cool to see how the changes that like Julia and I have made within the year is like mirrored between the people that we're inspired by. So yeah, it's really cool.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, whatever, guys.
No, I think that's very true. And I've had, I think people have shared this experience. Like I had a really massive clearing, you know, like of my social circle, of my financial circle. Like I felt like in the end of 2019, I was coming at you, world. Come at a place of so much abundance. And like, and I also had plans, like Virgos, like we love to make lists. We love our plans. I had a list of how to segue out of the things that I didn't want anymore. And it was going to take all of 2020. And I was like, by the winter, by the fall, by the winter, I was going to kind of have started what I have now. And it was just like, within the 3 months of the first 3 months of the pandemic, it was just like, no, you're not going to go back to that. You can't go back to that. Like
literally,
some of the independent studios, like the studio we met at, is still continuing on, because it has a lot of resources.
It does,
behind it. Whereas the small independent studios, and even Yoga Works, which is which went public, like a publicly traded yoga company, went bankrupt. The majority of the independent studios run by like the mom and pop shops were gone, like decimated in the first 3 to 6 months. So I mean, there was like a massive clearing of our population, to be dark, like a massive clearing within the population, a massive clearing and a massive like upheaval of energy that people were hiding. You know, like even kind of like it seems silly to think of like me repressing my actor self or like these, but this is like the sincerity that I was talking about with my clowning teacher. Like I think I had lost that in my yoga practice, my sincerity, and not that it had been replaced by some narcissistic, egoistic person, but more like it had been replaced by a person who was just trying to survive.
Truth.
You know, and there's no reason to simply survive as the like highest of the food chain on this planet. You know, we there's just really no need for that. We should really be using our resources not only to help other humans, but to help the world. You know, you were saying earlier about staying at a temperature, like a perfect temperature. Like, not only is that not good for our internal ecosystem, if you think of yourself like a tiny earth, which I often do and like to meditate on, being like a tiny earth.
Nice. I like that.
It's also bad for actual Mother Earth, you know, like for pollution and for just for energy consumption. You know, as we saw with the weather change so abruptly in Texas a few weeks ago, and people being unable to keep their heat on and their power on, and that huge surge. You know, like we should, again, that shouldn't happen. And people also shouldn't have crazy bills that are like from that experience, you know?
So much in the world.
So much change is ready to occur. I think it's actually, it's easy to get, I've been talking to a lot of my male friends about this in particular, and again, maybe this is like another podcast, but about cynicism, like cynicism being the death of hope. I think it's really easy to get cynical. It's easy to be like, oh, those, you know, liberal elites, oh, those rightist whatever, oh, those nature-loving, tree-hugging hippies. I was hugging trees this morning. I think it's easy to label, and it's easy to repress or suppress change. But it's easy to be cynical, but it's better to be hopeful.
Oh, truth.
You know, like it's actually, if you allow yourself to be open to it, you know, like the hollow reed idea, anything is possible.
Yeah, of course.
You just have to believe it into being, you know, like, no more cynicism. Believe in what you know to be true, which is that we've changed so much in our world as human beings so rapidly in the past 100 years. Why in the world would you think we are married to this current situation? Also, when the divorce rate is 51%, I mean, people are getting out of these relationships. We can certainly get out of some of these negative habits here.
Amen.
It's just going to be interesting to see how a structure that's it's very rigid, or even the foundational principles upon the structure is very rigid. It's interesting to see that I was reading this one philosopher's articulation of what a society is. And a society is like stability, which is kind of staying with the status quo, and then the youth, the next generation, challenging those status quos, and then it's up to the society to kind of update itself while still always kind of remaining like a step behind because it wants to be stable while we kind of push it along. So there's always like a natural tension between the two. So it's going to be interesting to see how these birthing pains kind of bring us into the future, and how we can hopefully handle it with grace. It's going to be interesting.
I think we can end with that.
Thoughts.
Yeah, deep thoughts.
Deep thoughts for everyone.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, what did we learn, guys?
Breath.
Move
Breathing.
your body. Move your body. Take deep breaths. It's gonna be okay.
Truth.
Stay hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Don't sit in one place for too long. There's lots to explore, and there's enough to go around.
Yes.
And
Abundance.
go outside into nature, please.
Yeah.
And appreciate nature. Don't throw your trash on the ground.
No trash.
No trash.
No
on the ground.
no doggy poop bags.
Good
Yeah.
recap. Good recap.
Yeah. Yes. So again, thank you to 1001 Wilshire. I always say it both ways. Wilshire 1001, and then I say 1001 Wilshire.
They sound both good.
They
both work.
Boulevard not happening. And thank you to Happening Studios for broadcasting us as always and giving us this amazing platform to do what we're doing and do what we love.
Truth.
Next week we have Pierre. I'm gonna butcher your name. Sorry, Pierre. Artist au revoir.
Ovier?
It's a French name, and
Yes.
he likes to talk
It's a
about
very
how
interesting
people can't pronounce his name, but
Yeah.
He does stencil work. He does amazing stencil work with spray paint, and
He actually pioneered his actual specialization of stenciling and has worked with a lot of renowned artists throughout his long tenure as a professional artist, and it's going to be very interesting. Definitely a very interesting conversation.
He has a show up right now at Athenessa Gallery in La Brea.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful show, but we will talk about that next week. He'll be on and he'll tell you all about it. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you, and thank you, Sarah. We appreciate
Thank
you
you, Sarah,
coming
for
by
coming
and giving us all these insights and words of wisdom. We really appreciate it.
You're so very welcome anytime.
She'll be back.
All right, guys.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you, guys.